Oh goodness. Okay, let's see where we're at. So is it stop?
There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I didn't know that I muted myself. Oh, sorry. Because I was playing around earlier on. I was like, yes.
Want to leave it open? All right, cool. Leave it open.
Oh no, but it's Sunday. Let me be conservative because I had it unbuttoned right down there. I know.
We'll do it buttoned up then.
I'm not trying to be a manhole today. It's the Lord's Day.
Yeah, not the Lord's Day.
Oh, seriously, are you recording?
Yeah.
Why? You're
Always
supposed to record
recording.
all this.
You're gonna get the full version. You can chop it out. It's completely fine.
No, because I wanted to talk about sordid stuff before we start. Well, okay, I can't risk conversations.
Where is this going? Where do you want to air this? Where do you want to show it? What's the intention?
Well, I'm going to show it on the what do you call it? The business hub.
Yeah.
Once the thing is done, and then on my platform as well. And then there may be bits that I will share on Open Door.
So are we mental health relating it, or are we just having a business conversation? Because I guess
it's all encompassing. It's all encompassing. That's what I'm saying. So there's some bits that I'll select from the relevant platforms.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me just
Can you make sure that are we side by side on the screen as you're recording?
We are side by side.
Okay, good. Right. Am I centered?
Yeah. You are.
Sorry, because all this matters. I'm not posting anything like off center because that's just crazy.
Let me take a photo of what I see. And then...
Yes.
Oh, okay. Is that what you want to do? Okay, fine. Go on then.
A Zoom photo shoot. I'm sure somebody's done that before. Seriously, I'm sure of it.
Done what?
A Zoom photo shoot. I need to ask my people. I'm sure someone's done it. I'm sure.
All right, I sent it through. Have a little look.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's it. That's exactly what it. Excellent. Right. So let's get started.
Do you want to do an intro or?
Okay. Yeah, I'll do an introduction, a quick introduction, because obviously it's multiple platforms, so it's not my usual podcast. Okay. Good day, everybody, and welcome to this edition of. I'm guessing this is the Let's Talk About It. Okay, we're going to be talking about it. Sorry. Let me start again. Let me start because it is Let's Talk About It. Sorry. Let's strike that. Sorry. Right, okay. Okay. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk About It. Today, I'm super, super excited. I've got my very good friend, Mr. Adil Hussain. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. I am so excited for this conversation.
Yes. Yes, and it's all the way from Dubai. So we're international, of course. Come on.
No, that's it. Met in London, met in the UK, and now we are continuing this beautiful friendship. Doesn't matter how many miles get in the way.
Absolutely, yes, that's right. So linked to this Dubai and moving and things like that. We spoke about the aspect of risk. I mean, you spoke about that on your platform as well, and you mentioned that you're a very risky guy. And when you said that, I was like, oh, okay, you're my people even more because I'm all about risks, and the people that know me as that as well. So I just thought, what, let's have a conversation, and let's talk about risks. We'll talk about it from different perspectives, obviously. So from a business perspective, professional, mental health, any kind of angle that you want to take from it. So yeah, I mean, so my first point that I wanted to ask you is, do you think that actually wait, let me strike that. What's the greatest risk that you've taken? Let's start with that.
I'm gonna say this one, to be fair. Moving to Dubai. I had literally all my friends and family saying, "Are you sure this is the right thing to be doing? You don't know what You don't know about, are you going to have a job? Where are you going to get your money from? Because I quit my job to come here. So I quit my job in London during, Corona lockdown, like all of this stuff. I just thought, fuck it, I'm just gonna quit. Um, Came out here to be with my woman, and it's like the biggest risk you could think of, but I couldn't think of a more beautiful reason to take that risk. And I'm out here just having the most amazing time, and I think I can call it a success because I'm just happy. I hope that she's happy that I'm here, and everything else will fall into place. I'm a big believer of everything will work out. You know.
And I love that. I love that. To me, that everything is going to work out. I see that serendipity. To me, that's the word that encapsulates that. And and every time I talk, I've spoken on platforms, whether it's like business platform and things like that. I always bring up serendipity, and they're just looking at me a little bit like, okay, that's a bit crazy because as obviously Adil is also in the corporate world. In the sense, you're from. Can you tell us a bit about your background, your professional background?
Professional background is I've mainly worked in the industry of procurement, which is buying. So I've been a buyer for central government and the NHS, and arm's length bodies to central government in the UK for the last 10 to 11 years. And that's my
Mm-hmm.
background really. I'm also qualified.
That's it.
So there's a risk. There's a
That's
risk,
it.
but actually it's funny that because procurement's main responsibility is to de-risk in public sector. It's to de-risk the organization from any kind of potential challenge
Mm-hmm.
for letting a potential contract without going through the governance and the rules. So my whole job is around limiting risk, which is actually quite interesting considering I'm actually quite a risky person.
Yes, it's quite interesting. Yeah. So and I say, and I think when I'm on my different platforms as well, like you mentioned something like serendipity in corporate environments, and especially business, people look at me like an alien because I just like, but as people who work in that kind of environment, you need to have airtight goals. You need to have risk management strategies in place. You need to have contingency planning and all these things in place. And also as a project manager, these are things that I talk about. But in my personal life, yeah, the gloves come off, and yes, I'm a believer in serendipity and the fact that everything will work out.
Yeah.
So so my next point that I wanted to bring up is, do you think that, no, sorry, what does risk management look like to you? Interestingly, what does risk management look like to you in your life? Because, obviously we spoke about it from professional perspective.
So I like to
What does
ensure
that look like to you?
I like to ensure that I actually am looking at the various factors that are involved. So to the outside person, whoever it isn't me, they may think I'm taking risks, like major risk, without really thinking about what's going on. So I just, I do try and I play out a lot of things in my head, how things might look. I do speak to people that have already done things that I want to do, and I also think about, okay, what's the worst that can happen? There's a lot of my risk management happens in my head
Mm,
because you can't always know. And some of the risks and the moves that I've taken have been quite scary, they're quite daunting, but it's mainly because there's a fear behind it, right? There's a fear of a lack, there's a fear of like death, or just something which could mean it could severely impact our lives. But if you really look at the situation, chances are it's actually not that big a deal in the first place. It's actually a
that's
lot of
it.
misconceptions, the perceived threat of failure or whatever it's going to be, mainly passed on through our social circles, our friends, our family, and not really our own thoughts. So risk management to me is just understanding the fuller picture, and ensuring that I've done my own homework. So I feel like I'm taking a bit of a calculated risk, rather than a
Yeah.
risk. You know.
Interesting. And when it's interesting that you mentioned calculating risk, because I think we all do, even us as risky people, we do kind of think. But has there ever been an instance when you actually saw yourself just not even calculating, just actually taking the leap without?
Yeah, so there was once. There was once. I mean, it's not. It's still a risk, right? It's a bit. It's not a huge risk, but it's a risk. It's when I actually went to go buy a car. Um, I
Mm,
wasn't meant. I wasn't meant to buy a car. I actually went just to look at a car, and I ended up walking out of the showroom with an Alfa Romeo Mito like turbo car on finance when I actually couldn't afford the monthly payments, but I wanted the car so bad. I just went and did it. And when I paid the deposit,
right.
and I signed up for everything. I had £500 left in my account, and my paycheck wasn't coming for another 3 weeks. I knew that I could not afford that monthly payment. So what did I do? A week later, I quit my job because I found another job that paid me more money. So I went and found another job.
Right.
I took that risk, not even knowing what would happen or how I was going to get more money, but I did it anyway because I was driven by the love of the beauty of the car.
You know what? That's just gangster. I mean, can we take a moment here? Like, I mean, see, this is the kind of stuff that gets me so like, I'm just like, wow, in awe. Because, you know, not only was it something that you just did and you just thought to yourself, actually, I can't really afford it. You didn't sit there and wallow in it and think, okay, well, you know, and then get in trouble. You're like, you know what? Let me just roll to that. Now that is gangster. That, you know, yeah, you know, that's up there when it comes to, correcting or like, damage control. You know?
That's what it was. It was damage control. You know, it wasn't much more of a jump that I had to make in terms of my salary, but the way, I mean, I was quite proud of myself and quite impressed with myself that I gave him my notice after finding a job within a week. It's like a contracting role. So I was earning like, a day rate that was actually quite decent. And I made a good few grand extra a month. So that was not too bad.
Wow. No, but yeah, like I said, that's just gangster. That's good.
You
I
have a
like that.
story.
I like that because I think for me, sorry.
Do you have a story like that that you could share with us?
Well, for me, I just live like that anyways. I think. I mean, I just jump into things. As like I said, from business perspective, that's it. You know, when a lot of people, if I get an idea, I'll invest in it. Like I've done that maybe 3 or 4 times, and my team, partners or whatever, would be like, "What are you doing? Where's the paperwork to prove that this is gonna work?" I don't care. Sometimes because, like I said, serendipity, my gut feeling, and just the sheer adrenaline. That's what it is for me.
Yeah.
It's the adrenaline. It's become so addictive to taking risks, things like that. That yeah, if I feel that something is right, I just action it straight away. And then it's not a case of worrying about the what you call it, the consequences later. It's more, I will, like I find ways to to damage control very, very quickly. So that I think that's what makes it easier for me to be like that and to just live life in that way. But a lot of people just look at me sometimes and just like, that's just crazy. But the best thing that happens is that when I succeed at these things, I'm like, well, guys, look, the proof is in the pudding, right? So it depends. There's maybe 2 of my business ventures that I can say that I've just jumped into like that, and they ended up turning out right. So yeah, it does happen, and it is. Sorry.
What does actually risk mean to you though? I think the definition is
The definition.
to you.
Actually, I think to me, it's about just our function on feelings and emotions. Okay, so for me, risk equals adrenaline. Just like I said, it's about having that adrenaline pumping through your body, your system, that fight or flight response. Just being ready. It's excitement for me. It is. It's quite interesting. Like I said, a lot of people that know me are just like, you're just addicted to these kind of situations. And yes, that aspect of risk is, to me, it's adrenaline. There's an aspect of fun to it. And yeah, but I think when I look at, either the things that haven't gone right, things like that, I have to look at it as lessons learned anyways. Okay. I have a big binder, not physical, but like, a big, imaginary binder where I put all the lessons of the things that didn't necessarily work out. And to me, this is like a lessons learned log of the things that I need to learn. Because again, I'm that kind of person. I love to learn from things that didn't work out. I never see it as a fatality. I never see it as like, oh my gosh, this. No, I don't. I always see it as a lesson learned. And you mentioned fear earlier on. I'm not afraid. I've come to the point in my life where I'm not afraid of things going pear-shaped, in a sense.
That's good. And those lessons learned, actually, they help you potentially take bigger risks in the future because you're de-risking, because you've actually got more things, you've got more lessons, I guess, under your belt that actually equip you to either manage and control the situation, like you mentioned before, or just know that actually you know enough now to take that extra risk. Because I'm assuming that actually your risks over time will get to the outsider will get greater and bigger and more risky.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. But then another thing, another talking point that I had here was about, the appetite of risks, and if we feel like they fluctuate according to where we are in our lives. And this kind of links in very nicely with this. And I think, for me, well, like I said, I love a good risk and things like that. And, when I look at myself when I was 25, for instance, because 25 was a crazy time, because that's where a lot of the craziest things happened to me. Like, when I was starting my activist work, I threw myself in countries that were at war. Okay. Yeah, I can see the eyebrow raised. Yes. I went to work, in countries that, were at war. I got stuck for many, many weeks, in the embargo, like, just countries that, yeah. So I've been in these situations. Part of me knew that this was kind of going to happen, but I still went ahead, right? Because I felt like I was, I was the man. I was like, no, I can do this. I'm fine. I survived maybe 3 situations like that. I was taken to a warlord when I was crossing one border in Africa, and then they thought I was a spy. So they took me to meet, like, I've been in some crazy situations because of the risks that I took. But if you ask me to do that now, at 35, with being the dad and the husband, yeah, I don't know if I quite do it like that.
I get it.
I don't know, because I guess I have a lot more to lose or to live for. So I think the risk is still there. I take it in different arenas in my life, but some of the previous risks that I used to take, I don't think they would fit in today, because the risk appetite fluctuates according to your understanding of life and what you have as well, in my opinion. How do you feel about that?
No, I completely understand. Because even, for example, this move that I made to Dubai, had I not had, say, so a little bit of a financial cushion, just some savings, for example, which is, I guess, how I de-risked the situation, I wouldn't have been able to just come here without a job, for example. I would have had to get a job beforehand, which might have taken me more time, and then it just wouldn't have been able to happen. But the fact that I was able to get up and go because I had that meant that I could take that risk, and I still can. But yeah, I definitely feel that as I've gotten older, the risks that I take are definitely very different. For example, even going out when I was younger and drinking as much as I used to do, for example, when you're out with your friends and whatnot, you don't do those same things anymore. That's just a different level of. There was one time when I got so drunk, for example, I didn't even realize I blacked out. I slept on the street, didn't even realize. Got picked up by a couple of strangers. They took me to their house. I woke up thinking a completely different home. You know,
What
luckily
the?
this couple were like literally a couple of angels, and they just looked after me. I had all my belongings on me. It was like it. That was crazy, but I wouldn't do that now because that's just very risky, and I'm not looking to kind of play that kind of game with my life. You know. So
Yeah, you know. So maturity does play a big part in the risks that we take. They change over time. And like I said, would I, when it comes to business anyways and these things like that, yeah, always, I will always take the risk I need to take, because I've been an entrepreneur. From my perspective, you have to be risky. You have to take risks. So understanding that is something that I cultivate in my practice anyways.
yeah,
So that would always happen.
and so
But anything else, no, not really. No.
another way that throughout my life I've been a job hopper. So I haven't stayed in a particular job for prolonged periods of time. I get bored really easily with work, and I tend to every year and a half I moved around, and that was seen as quite risky. Oh, you must make sure you
No.
stay
So,
time and all these kind of things. I didn't really care for that, So I was willing to take those kind of risks to move up in terms of I guess promotion or stature, and also in salary. I think from the age of 23, 22, 23, when I got kind of my first kind of procurement job to where I finished now, that was an increase of about £40,000 in less than 8, 9 years. And that isn't something that always happens in the industry that I'm in. If you don't take those kind of risks, you don't push the boundaries, you don't move, you don't level up. Um, and I think that's it's incredibly important to take those kind of risks. And I can look at some friends now and even some family that are in jobs that they've been in for quite some time and they haven't moved. And when you hear them talk about how, oh, I'm jealous, or the money that you earn or you've earned, or I'm just thinking, well, let's go, like move. Oh, but it's the wrong time, and this it's always the wrong time if you think like that, you know. So I'm very much on that pushy aspect of let's just come on. What have you got to lose? It's not even trying. Right.
Mm, mm. I love the fact that understanding of it's never the right time. Because I think when you really analyze, and when I look at my life, even yes, and I realized that a few times I've done this, especially with me, it's cropped up whenever it was time to have children. Like it's not the right time, and this and that. I'm adding up the finances and this and that, and because the most recent one was we were trying to have a third baby, and I looked at the current situation at the moment, and I was like, oh, go, 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 go. And then somebody said something, and they were like, you can't take a risk with that. And I paused and I thought about it. And I guess it took the better of me because I just kind of thought, oh, am I going to be risky and have a third child in the middle of this pandemic when, hospitals are crazy like this, and then, another side of me was like, well, people are having babies still, like, get over yourself.
Yeah.
But just the fact that that person said, don't take this as a risk and don't take this risk, it just kind of, it just made me kind of pull back.
Okay.
So
I thought it might have made you
sorry.
want a bit more.
No, and that's the thing. And I think, with this particular thing, it's looking at, how your risk appetite changes, because at this point in my life, I tend to look at things into things a bit more, I kind of look at, the health conditions, like, how healthy we are. I look at our life at the moment with two and how, busy that is.
Yeah.
I look at the fact that the world is a bit crazy at the moment. And part of me is thinking, okay, I could take the risk, but how do I damage control after that? Because as much as we're great at damage control, there's always going to be that one situation that you're not going to be able to clean up after.
And
you know?
and I guess the situation isn't just you taking the risk.
Yeah. So I think it's weighing it like that and just looking at things like that. So I don't feel like less of a risk taker because of that. I don't. I think it's just maturity and mitigation. If you want to get technical. So another talking point that I had was, what was your biggest failure and how did that shape your relationship with risk? So you mentioned a little bit about that, but how was the relationship with the risk after that? Because sometimes, we have these situations and it's just, we took the risk and it was an epic fail, right? And then how's the relationship with risk after?
So I feel like the area of risk for me that is the most scary is when it comes to anything financial. So even though I've taken financial risk,
Okay.
it's still an area where I'm most apprehensive. I still do it. Like I've invested in stocks and shares. I've invested in things happening in Ghana, in Africa, for example. But it takes me a long time before I can actually think about doing it. And there's been a few things in the past where I've invested financially and it's not paid off. And it's just I become more disappointed in myself that this is, why did I was apprehensive, why did I do it? And so it does make me pull back whenever I hear now, something, oh, there's this opportunity. Would you like to invest? I instantly feel like the answer is no. And it takes me a while, I like to ensure that I've got a buffer. Like you may have remembered that I posted a story about how I was in debt for so long, and I've only recently.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to spending and all that, I definitely have a fear and a risk around that, and I don't want to be in that position again. So me being in this position right now, where I'm not earning, for example, and I'm out in Dubai, a very expensive place to be, it took me. I had to make
Yeah.
sure I had a bit of a buffer to even be here, you know, because that's a very scary, risky place to be. So I definitely say that it's the risk around money that I am more apprehensive about. You know, things around, like, for example, right now with Corona and COVID, I've traveled more times this year than I have in my entire life, and that was during the whole. Like, it doesn't; those things don't bother me. I want to live my life, you know. But not being able to pay my way is something that definitely bothers me. I feel like the risk associated with finance is, for me, one of the hardest things.
No, and I can definitely concur. And I'm sure if we ask, if I walk outside and stop people and ask them, everybody's going to say that because obviously finance is such a huge thing. But so how has that affected your relationship with risk?
So,
Coming out of debt and being in debt and things like that.
so it's just made me want to be more prepared. You know, so if I
Mm,
am going to go into these particular arenas of risk with finances, I want to make sure that I'm safe, that I'm sorted. So it's still a risk per se, because maybe I'm parting with a few £1,000s or whatever it's going to be, or investment, but I'm not giving my, half my savings, or a big portion of it, or I'm not going to know where my finances are going to come from in the next. So I'm planning more. I'm doing more research. So my
right,
relationship with the risk
right.
is that I'm planning as much as I can, or at least coming up with many different solutions. So it's maybe more prepared, you know.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that preparedness. I think for me, yes, the financial thing is a big thing because obviously, when I first started, on the entrepreneurial journey, I think 4 years in, I decided to create my 5 business concept. And that was the biggest risk, okay? And a lot of people looked at me and they were like, "Whoa," because we just settled, we just had our first child, and I wasn't just it wasn't just me. I had my wife and whatever else, and I thought, you know what? Let me invest everything that I had up until now into this because obviously to set up 5 businesses, they drink cash like anything, like it's like water, they drink it. So I was like, okay, fine, let's do it. My wife is not a risk taker. She's not. So she looked at this and she was like, I've seen that you can be successful and whatever else. But do understand that these are things that are putting you put it's the family now, and I still did, and I can't tell you the first time when things got so tight that I couldn't make the payment, the rent, and things like that. Okay, I've been in these situations, and I just sat there and I just thought, what have I done? It got to that point, and then she freaked out naturally, kind of fashion, because she just freaks out. And I was like, you know what? It's all right. Let's fix this. And I tried to fix it as best as I could. First month happened, second month happened, third month. I was like, okay, this is, it's grinding at me. But do you think that I threw everything away? No, I didn't. Okay. I carried on. That made me more determined to make this work because I had lots of people watching me. Because the moment when I said 5 and this, they're like, okay, right, let's see how you do this. Let's see how much you owe after this. And I managed to do it. And I didn't owe anybody a penny because they were seeding each other. That was the concept. And so once I got to the point where I was successful enough, I said, you know what? There you go. I took a risk and I had to take that risk. I had to get us in the pits of hell, literally, for us to come back up, And, let me give you a little religion here, It's faith. We call it faith in a religion, the faith that you can actually, do it and you can come up on top victorious. And that was it for me. But what that did was that it cemented the aspect that, you know, on that risk journey, you need to hit rock bottom. You know, sometimes you need to hit rock bottom to be able to come up. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, that happens to everybody. A situation like this, yeah, that could have gone left, you know, completely. I could have lost everything.
Yeah.
Yes. But even then, I think I would have found a way to bounce back. But, you know, that's, yeah. You know, but yeah, you need to hit the bottom for it to be able to come back up and to work, you know. So if there's anybody listening to us talking now, because, you know, what I want them to understand is that, you know, you can take the risk, be prepared for it to, you know, to go, yeah, to get real, you know, to get real. You're going to sweat a lot, but that's part of it. That's part of the experience, you know. It's all about having the way to find the equilibrium afterwards. You know, what are some of your thoughts on that? If we had to like say something to the people that
So, well,
are in that situation.
first of all, it brings me to the point of, or the, I guess, the anecdote that we hear a lot is that all of these successful people, or many of the successful people that we see in the media today, or just in our lives, no matter who they are, whether it's J.K. Rowling, whether it's Elon Musk, or whoever it's going to be, you always hear that there's a bit of an underdog story. There's a time
that's it.
it's like low where they just don't know how they're going to make it. And through that kind of trial, you know, that element of fear and it all feeling like a risk and not knowing what's going to happen next, I feel like that's when the magic happens. You know,
That's it. That's it.
wind, or you're just up against it. The Dwayne the Rock Johnson always talks about his story of having $7 in his pocket, you know, being dropped from the NFL, not knowing how he's going to make it, and he promised his mom that, you know, with that $7 he's going to make it, and he did, and he's the most like successful, I think, TV star that ever existed at the moment. And so I guess the message to those that are listening is that on the other side of risk and the other side of that kind of maybe that bottom is greatness. And whenever I hear people saying that they're really passionate about something but they don't know how to go ahead and do it, and I'm talking to myself at the same time, you just need to take that leap. If you trust yourself and you have faith, you will be
it sounds simple. It sounds simple, but it is that simple. You know, to me, like I said, I endangered. You know, I'm not saying that everybody should do this, by the way, I'm not. But I endangered my own family situation, you know, my marriage, you know, for, you know, to be able to do this thing. And yes, people watching it thinking that's just crazy. I'm never going to do this. But it depends how much you want something. It depends how much you need to get to a certain point in life. Because, you know, you get to a certain plateau. There's a plateau in life, you know. You're just chugging along. And you hit it, and it's just like, okay, what do I do next? You know, what do I do next? Like you mentioned, you know, it's about having that strength to pierce through that, you know, and take what comes with it. Because as much as and I have this thing, you know, in business and whatever else, I'm always saying this to the guys, you know, the risk guys that are just like, oh, well, this risk, have you thought about this? What's the risk management solution? It's like, okay, guys, just chill. You know, it's all right. Take a chill pill. It's not that deep. We're not God, right? Listen, when people started 2020, and I always say this, nobody sat there thinking, oh, there's going to be a pandemic, and the pandemic is going to completely crash the market, and then this and this. Nobody thought that. Where were your risk documents then? That's my question. Where were your risk documents then? Your risk, charts and whatever. Where were they? So there's certain things that we can plan for and that we can, you know, anticipate. But there's some things that we just can't.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes the difference from an entrepreneurial situation, as point of view, anyways. That's what makes the difference between the entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurs. You know, the people that are actually the entrepreneurs. Because what we are is people that we're hustlers. We're people that can actually adapt to any situation. And I've spoken about this so many times. It's about adaptation. It's not about sitting there having all your documents in order, sitting there and be like, okay, like golden child taking. That's not what it's about. It's about how you can sit there and look at a situation and mold yourself in it, find a way out. I compare it to being like water, because water goes everywhere. You can be a rock standing in the way. Water's going to find a way to either go through or out. Okay, that's my analogy. Be like water. Find ways to infiltrate yourself, even when there's an obstacle, and that's it. And that aspect of risk comes into this so much. We can sit there and we can do all these plans or whatever, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
You know,
You know?
it's so true. And actually, there's been so many times where I've had like ideas and stuff, and I've run these ideas past friends or family or just anyone in that I'm kind of talking to. And the first thing I hear back, really, after, other than that's a great idea, is what about, like you said, what about this? Have you thought about that? And I had a business idea years and years ago now. Like I was young. I like to generate ideas, but I didn't know how to run with it. And I developed a little group with my friends, and we said, okay, let's try and do this because they thought it was a good idea too, which is great. But all that they kept coming up with is just like, oh, what about this? We can't do that, and where are we going to do this, and how are we going to? There wasn't any solution involved. It was just all of the bad stuff, all of the stuff that we couldn't do, or all of the the risk. And unfortunately, but I didn't have the kind of resilience that I have now, but or the money to be fair. But we dropped it, and it just never went anywhere. And it was one of those ideas that I think could have been something, And I actually saw the idea recently come about. It didn't come about in a way that,
Yes, yeah.
so it's not, I would not deem it to be successful, but someone did it, even if it just takes a while before it kicks off. Maybe they create to a certain space and
That's it.
Facebook buy it. But you got to take the risk. You have to be okay with failure as well. And I think
That's it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
that's one of the things that
Absolutely.
being okay with failure and being able to adapt are like you said, I think they're the things that really separate the entrepreneurs and the successful people in the corporate world, or just successful people in general. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it also, you know, I met my partner online, like through Instagram, and we connected over from the beginning of the year over Zoom and Instagram, WhatsApp, and so we didn't really know each other, and it's even you could see that as a risk that you're connecting with someone that
Mm-hmm.
you don't really know each other, which we met up in different countries around the world, and then I took the risk to come out here. So it's not just about business; it's also about your relationships, taking risks
It's life, relationships. Yeah. That's it.
I left my
About
family and left my home to come here where she is, so we could be together and make it work. And that's a risk, But like I said, it's a beautiful risk.
that's it. Yeah, especially when you talk about relationships. Absolutely, I think a relationship is a massive risk in itself. Like it's just when you look for the definition of relationship in the dictionary, the word next to it should be risk. Absolutely, because you're taking all this risk to be with somebody, and you don't know what it's going to end up. You don't really know the person, just in general, and you're just hoping. Again, you're hoping, having faith that it's going to work, and when it works, it's beautiful. So that's why, the word faith and, these words that are deemed religious should be part of our vocabulary. We don't use them often. We don't credit these words enough for, the way that how often we run to them, or we refer them, or go to or use them, because that's the foundation of, everything that we do, and, hoping that these things work. It was very interesting when you mentioned about failure. Absolutely. And I was at the moment we're creating, like, every year, like, I with my tech guy, we create like a montage of my year, like the things that I've achieved every year. And we came to the point, what's going on?
I'm laughing because I'm not even surprised, but I didn't expect you to say it. Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
But listen, because I mean, we work hard. Sorry, we work hard, so it's nice to see it in retrospect and be like, what, yeah, this is what we achieved. And interestingly, it's the one big failure that I've had this year has been my clothing line. And I don't mind saying this. In the beginning, I was a bit, I was like, oh, because I made like a big deal about it, and it just didn't happen. And everybody was like, "Oh, that flopped." When I didn't say it, but they were thinking it. Because you know, when you get things right, and then people always focus on the one thing that didn't work, right? So I was like, "Okay, I'm not going to talk too much about it." And then I thought, you know what? Actually, no. He was like, "Oh, don't include it. We're not including it." And I was like, "Well, no, we are, because I spent money to get all these things together. You know, yeah, okay, it didn't take off, but I want to include my failures in the things that I've achieved. Absolutely. Or the things that I've done, of creating this year. That was it. You know, and he found that very strange. And he was like, but that's weird. You know, most people would want to put it to the back or not even talk about it. I was like, no, I talk openly about it. I did a forum. Um, I was part of a panel again a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about these things as entrepreneurs, you know, COVID and how things have impacted. And I spoke about all the things that didn't happen and the things that I failed at. Absolutely. You know, and I think being okay with failure is such an important thing. It really is, you know, because the moment when you're not living with authenticity, one, you know, and two, you're not being real to the different, to just how things work out in your life, you know. And if you took a risk to get to that point, because I knew that bringing out the clothing line at this point was going to be risky. I knew that wasn't the time. I brought it out in June. That was in the middle of everything, you know, but it was scheduled. So I was like, you know what, I'm running with it. You know, it was a risk that I took. It didn't work out. Okay, I lost money. Fine. We'll try again next year.
Yeah.
But it's accepting that and actually openly talking about it.
How do you encourage people, and to even I want advice for myself, to be more familiar and be more okay with the failing aspect of risk?
But I think, like I said, for me, it's, well, it's interesting because I focus, because I've got so many things, other things that worked out this year. So I don't mind. But even if, you know, and I've had years where, you know, just things just didn't work out. It's just having the confidence to just talk about it and just share it. You know, because that's the thing with everything that I've done that hasn't worked. I've had the drive to just think to myself, no, 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 no. I have to find a way. There has to be a way for it to work. It starts with the belief that you have in the concept that you're pushing to start with. Okay. If you know, and that's what I was saying, serendipity and gut instinct. If you know in yourself that it's a good concept, that's what you come back to. Like I said, with everything, whether it's business, whether it's, come back to your why. That's it. Why do you have this? Why are you thinking of that? And even if it didn't work out, come back to that and say, well, okay, it didn't work out because that, there's 1,000 ways to bring an idea to life. There's 1,000 million ways. And that's what people don't listen, don't realize. They just think, oh no, but that was the way that I envisioned. That's the way that I planned. It didn't work. So that means that all the energy and whatever else that I've put into it means that it doesn't work. That's sort of rubbish. It is. There's a million ways to bring an idea to life. So if something failed the first time, you sit back down and you're like, okay, ask yourself, what's my conviction in this? What's the percentage of my conviction? How convicted am I that this is going to work? One. If it's a good conviction, if it's like above 80% or 70%, then you know that you need to run with it. Okay, fine. Let's start again. Let's analyze the things that didn't work out before. And that's why I said that lesson log is so important, whether it's physical or whether it's like, you know, mental. Lessons log of the things that you've learned on the project, or, you know, the thing, so important so that you can correct the things that didn't work the first time. But it's not a terminal disease. You know, the failure it's not a terminal disease. It's not. It's just how you see it, how much you believe in the idea. If you look at the idea and you're like, well, actually, it sucks, I don't actually even believe it, then it's a different story. But if you know that it needs to work, you find a way to give it legs and hands. You know, that's the way that I see it.
What do you think? I'm trying to think how to phrase this. What do you think the impact is of social media on that? The reason why I say it is because I feel like what we seem to see now is the finished article, the finished product, the finished
That's
person,
it. Mm-hmm.
the
That's
celebrity,
it.
insta influencer, for example, and we just think, and even this is all talking for myself too. You think, I'm comparing myself to these people and think I should be there by now, or why am I not like that? You know, and actually a lot of the people that I look up to and follow, they're like 40 plus and they're doing the work that I like to do, right? A lot of the men's work that I'm doing, all of these like podcasts, all of these things that they're doing already. I think, okay, they got 10 years on me. They would have put in work from maybe now until then, and that's how and why they are the man that they are now, for example. I feel like we need to equip ourselves with the understand. Okay, fine, maybe there's a different story for you, but I feel like there's a journey. And I feel like that journey, if we had more exposure to the journeys that people went on, I feel like
That's
with
it.
more understanding and better, more accepting of that failures will occur and that they're okay.
That's it. That's it. And you know, and that's something that I dedicated myself, my platforms to. Whether it's I'm every man of the ER before. Everybody that followed me from the beginning will tell you that I'm always talking about how I'm feeling, and I do that on purpose. When I'm sitting here and I'm writing, I'm really really dumb today. I'll be like, I'm doing it on purpose because I'm trying to show you that when I come out and I'm like, oh, this is this new thing, and that this is what's behind it. It's hard. And yeah, you're chuckling when I said, I have like a montage of things that I've done. Absolutely, you better believe that I will, because it's hard work. When I start a year like this, that's it. The countdown is on. How much of these things can I achieve? But I'm showing you guys how I'm doing it. Like for instance, when I went back into modeling, I started talking about body image. I was like, you know what? I don't feel great in my body. I don't. But I'm booking these jobs. So I was like, listen, don't look at the finished article. Look at the journey that I'm going through. When I'm just sitting here like, my mental health is struggling. My body's not great. I'm feeling like crap. I feel ugly today. And I've got people messaging me. They're like, you know what? Wow. Like, you wouldn't see that. You wouldn't know it, because I want to go beyond the videos where I'm playing around. I want to go beyond the photos that I'm posting of the finished article, because well, it's real, but that's not all it is. There's a process, you know. And so, what you're saying now, absolutely, I've dedicated my platform to this for a very long time. I used to do these things called, it was like a 1 minute thing, like the entrepreneur's tip. That's what I used to call it. Where I was like, okay, right, well, this happened today, this went wrong, this team member did this and that. Like, I used to be like literally like terre à terre, like we say in French, like, literally like, to the letter with this. Because I wanted them to see the process of what it took for me to create Sunbird Enterprises, my 5 business concept. Because I knew that all eyes were on me. And I wanted to say, you know what, this is what that is. And even for me to talk to you and say, on the open platform and talk about the difficulty that I had, paying the rent at some point, whatever else in the beginning. I don't have to share that. I don't. I could just sit there and say, oh, it was great, fantastic. No, I will share this thing. Even my food festival, the last event that we had with it was absolutely awful. And I lost 3 friends that day because of something that happened backstage. I shared that. Okay. And I was like, yeah, this is what it looks like. It was great or whatever, but this is what happened. People's egos took over, and this is what I'm as real as they come when it comes to that stuff. And yeah, you're right, because when you look at on social media, sometimes you see all this. Yeah, it makes you feel a certain way, because you're just like, but why am I not able to just be like that?
Yeah.
But that's not the reality of it. It really isn't.
So if we were to compile a few top tips for our listeners and our viewers on risk, what could we pull together on the spot right now?
Well, the number, what did I mention? There was I can't. There's so many things that we spoke about. There's so many things. Help me out. So there was.
So we can prepare. So we can have as much. We can look at our lessons learned, or we can look at others' lessons learned. So we can look at someone like yourself and say, what advice do you have based on your experience? So we've got lessons learned through others, or lessons learned for yourself.
Yeah, and we could have the aspect of being okay with the failure that comes with the risk. Definitely. The other point that could be interesting for people to know is, sorry.
Knowing your why.
Going back to your why. Always. Why you're doing something and understanding. Sorry. Yeah, and The other thing is, you know, yeah, don't be afraid to take calculated risk. You know, you do calculate, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, calculated risk, educated risk, you know, do your research and do your homework. But my biggest one that I would say is, you know, just smell the roses. Serendipity, you know, you can't go wrong with that. You can't, you know, because the opportunities just open like that, you know, and I'm always a believer of that. And I've lived my life that way. And, you know, the risks that I've taken, they've been, you know, they've led me to places. So I do believe that it's possible to, yeah, just believe, like you said, in it will all work out, because it all does.
Yeah.
Whether you want to or not, it all falls into place. Not how you want to sometimes, but it falls into place.
I think that's a beautiful way to kind of bring it to a close. I think
Yeah,
that's beautiful
yeah, absolutely.
for our viewers.
Yes. Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic, fantastic conversation. I've loved it. Like, I love digging. Like, it's, you know, it's great. It's
I'm looking
amazing.
forward to the next one.
So, Adil, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this and sharing, you know, the experiences. Guys, you know, as always, you know, this conversation will be up in different snippets, you know, follow that. I'll upload it on the YouTube channel, you know, connect with that. I may turn it into an actual podcast, like a listening podcast as well, but we'll see. So yes, until next time, do take more risks and enjoy taking the risks. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Every